You've tuned in to Books, Business, and Beyond, a show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Now here's your host, the international expert who loves hiking mountains and a good cup of coffee in the mornings, Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen Eckstein.
Welcome back to another episode of Books, Business, and Beyond. In this episode, we are so excited to introduce you to our friend and colleague, Therese Sparby. She is just an amazing person, and I first met her at NAMS, and the very first moment I met her, I don't know if you remember this, Therese, you just, grabbed me into a big bear hug. I was like, wow.
Sounds like something I might do.
Yeah, and it really made an impression on me. But, Therese just radiates joy, and she's a life coach for movers and shakers. I love that. And so we're just going to get in today's episode into how to get unstuck. And I know a lot of authors get into that mode, whether it's writer's block or just moving their business forward. And so we're so excited to have you talk about this topic today. And I know Kristen has known you for a long time, haven't you, Kristen?
Absolutely. Therese and I go back, I think 5 years, something like that.
5 years.
5 years. Wow. And she's actually been my life coach throughout most of that time.
So this is a big topic about getting stuck, especially for authors. So I think it's going to be full of a lot of different perspectives and tips to be able to support you in getting unstuck and getting on with what you want to do.
So why don't you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do? Because some authors may not be familiar with what a life coach is or how that could actually help them.
So what I do is support people in creating a solid foundation for making decisions and choices that help them get more of what they want in their life. And my clients are typically executives in companies or entrepreneurs that are speakers or authors, people who have a message to share and have an audience that they want to share it with. And my purpose there is to support people in creating such a solid foundation that they become so magnetic. People follow them like they're a magnet. So
good analogy.
I was like, what is that word? So when Kristen and I coach together, for example, we just created an outline of what her values are, what makes her tick, what has her light up and get excited and get clear about what her boundaries are so that she can be the best business owner that she can be. And her message is crystal clear and it's easy for people to follow along.
That's awesome, because I recently went through a time where I was just looking through what are my core values. And I don't think I'd ever done that to that depth before with my business, and it really gave me clarity. And it's really helping me to move my business to a new level because I took the time to do that. But so often we ignore that part of just really getting clear. And if an author is feeling stuck, say they're feeling stuck in an area, what are some advice or what are some tips that you might have for them?
Man, it really depends on what they're getting stuck with, because there's in Radical Leadership, which is a program that I facilitate, we have what we call the trickster, which is that internal dialogue, that inner voice and critic that's always constantly nagging. And oftentimes that is what gets people stuck. They'll get frustrated because, maybe the ideas just aren't flowing, or they'll get frustrated because they don't have enough time or because they keep getting interrupted when they're writing. So really, it's important to pay attention to what is it specifically that's stopping you from getting it out there, from getting it down on paper. So the first step is awareness. And awareness is all about investigating. Now we could try and paint things with a broad paintbrush, and then we go and try and fix like 8 different problems that really aren't the problem in the first place. Until we stop to investigate, sort of like you talked about, Shelley, with your values, until you stop and take the time to really investigate what is it that's stopping me and get honest about it and real about it, then there's no way to get past it and solve it unless you accidentally do, and then it can just as easily accidentally undo.
That's so true.
Yeah. And wait a minute, I was doing so well. What just happened?
Yes. And, that's one of those things where that first step is so important. It's the awareness. And many times in our digital driven lives, we don't take that time to just reflect, to stop, to create some space. So if an author is constantly on social media or email or doing things and family running around like crazy, how would you suggest that they at least start by creating some time for that awareness? Is there any specific advice that you have for that?
Absolutely. Well, there are a couple of different things that you can do. One is just get intentional about it. Sort of like you would, if you were to decide to start exercising, for example, you would have to intentionally schedule the time into your day. You'd have to go, here's what I'm committed to doing. So you have to make a commitment to awareness.
So did you just listen to last week's episode, which was healthy writing with Brent Parkhill of All About Exercise? I mean, that was just uncanny. Okay, moving on.
Well, and Brent is an amazing physical trainer. So it's key, it's like very key to have that time scheduled into your day because it can accidentally always get squished out. What's true about us is we're habit machines. And we're assumption machines. So we create our lives one way and we get into a rut or a pattern of doing things one way. And without making a conscious commitment and even sharing that commitment with others so that I'm not the only person I'm held accountable to, I cannot shift that behavior because it's comfortable for me. It's worked in some form or another for a very long time. Oftentimes the pattern that's running when people keep themselves really busy is that they get to be busy, right? They get to be important. And then they don't have to actually do the things that they're freaked out about doing. And authors, sometimes that can mean finishing the book. Like, I've only got 15 pages left to write. I've only got this one chapter left to write. Why is it still hanging out there? I've got everything I need.
Right. And a lot of the times they blame writer's block when really it might be an underlying fear that they're not going to have that busy work to do anymore. And then they're going to have to face marketing.
Maybe, I don't know about you, but man, I back when you supported Bob in getting his first book out, Bob is my husband. Bob, it wasn't even the busy work. It didn't even cross his mind that marketing scared him. What was really happening was he was like, it's like, now you've got yourself out there. Now you're vulnerable. Now
Exactly.
You're being exposed. And if you're taking it personally, when people do or don't buy your book, it's going to be scary as heck to actually put it out on the market. Because what if nobody buys it? What if people don't like it? What if they have something to say about my thoughts and opinions?
Exactly. And I was recently going through some things where I was feeling an intense amount of fear. I'm moving my business forward in big ways and taking big risks and big steps. And I was just like, had this fear coming over me. And I was journaling it out and praying. And I was just like, what is this? And it wasn't about money. It wasn't about that. It was a fear of failure. Like, if I put myself out here in this big way, I might fail. And then I instantly heard, but what could happen? What could be? If you do this, what could be? And so I started focusing more on, wow, look what could happen. Look at all these people I could help. If I do this, if I step out, if I put myself out there vulnerable. But it's so true with a book. I mean, you will get good and bad reviews. I mean, we've all gotten them. I know that Kristen has as well. You'll get those 1 and 2 star reviews, and the first couple may just want to crush you. Like, But look and focus on all those 4 and 5 star reviews. How many people just loved your book and got so much out of it? But it can be this almost foreboding thing like, I'm putting my book out there, I'm putting myself out there, and it can be hard.
And let's talk a little bit about remaining unattached, because I think the core issue here is, as authors, we spend hours of our lives, days, weeks, months, years writing this book that becomes literally a baby. And just like a human child and a parent being attached to that human, and anything that happens to the kid, hurts the parent. The same thing with the book, anything that could potentially go wrong or go right with them, it scares them. So talk a little bit about that, how to remain unattached.
It's almost like being white knuckled about getting your message out there or getting what it's so close to your heart and important that people understand it, that if they don't understand it, then that could send you into a tailspin. If they don't receive it the way that you intended, it could send you into a tailspin. And that was, so that Kristen, that ties beautifully into, and so just the concept of being unattached. Notice when you're totally attached to something. One of my key phrases from Radical Leadership is ask for what you want and be unattached. Ask for what you want all the time. Gosh, I'd love for you to buy my book. I'd love for you to like it. I'd love for you to give me, a rating. Whatever the case may be that you want, ask for it, but don't ask for it in a way that you have to manipulate or coerce people in order for them to say yes. Allow them to say yes because they want to, not because they have to make you happy. And so when you're unattached, that also supports you in not taking things personally. And so not taking things personally means even when you put it out there, if somebody gives you praise over it, don't take that personally and make your personal worth based on that positive feedback. Because then just as easily when you get negative feedback, you take that and you take it personally, and then you're internalizing their feedback. The problem is people are crazy. All of us are nuts. And so we're walking around with all of our own sets of craziness and patterns. So when somebody gives you feedback, it could be all about them, potentially. Or it could be about you, or it could be about both of you. So you want to make sure you're watching and noticing if you're taking things personally and what that means to you. And if that's what's stopping you from getting your book out there, start the practice of not taking things personally. I had a client recently tell me, man, as she started this inquiry, she was like, I realized I take everything personally. Like as far as when I'm walking down the hall and somebody smiles at me or doesn't, it can change the tenor of my day if I allow it to. Now, if it's working for you, great. But most of the time, that internal voice, that trickster, doesn't say nice things and doesn't make everything mean nice stuff. It'll actually paralyze us and stop us from moving forward. So it's all about back to that awareness, noticing what is getting you hung up and stuck.
And talk a little bit about, I know with coaching with me, when I notice myself starting to take something personally, I feel it in my body somewhere. And that's a trigger. That's just a, hey, something's up here. So talk a little bit about that, how we can be aware within our bodies of something going on so that we can tell. Because sometimes people might be fully taking something totally personally and not even realizing it because they're not paying attention to how they feel physically. Absolutely.
Well, because it's status quo. It's normal for us to internalize and take things personally. That's how we've been taught. So, and even times it's promoted. So it's important to pay attention, like you're saying, Kristen, to your body, because like a first responder on the scene of an accident, your body is your first line to awareness. It will give you clues and cues on what's happening, what's a yes and what's a no for you, and what things you might be taking personally. Oftentimes, when you're taking something personally, you'll feel a contraction or getting smaller. So you want to notice what are those little red flags that are happening. Take a deep breath. If you take a deep breath all the way down into your belly and spend a few seconds on it, really relax into it. There's nowhere you can be but present. And your ego and your patterns will start running themselves. And if you can bring yourself back to the present moment, you'll start to feel the peace and calm of all is well. For me, Shelley, I call that God's peace.
Yeah. And that's so true. My mom is a counselor, and she is my personal counselor many times, but she'll tell me, Shelley, if you're noticing a really big reaction to something emotionally, that is kind of more than it should be, go a little deeper. Look a little deeper. There's probably something else underneath that. And usually that, I'm just more aware when I'm really reacting strongly to something. I stop and I'm thinking, okay, what is underneath this? And usually there is something more, deeper. And so it is great to take awareness and to become aware. And a lot of times we just go through our day and we're so busy and we don't stop to think. But we may have that tightness in our chest, or we may have, the tightness in our shoulders, or a headache, or something that is a sign that there may be something emotionally under the surface or something else going on. And so I think it is great to pay attention to our bodies.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, as an author, you have a pure message. You have this like internal drive to share this message with people and with a broad audience. And if you're getting in your own way and if you're getting yourself stuck, then there's no way for other people to hear that message. Even if you get the book written and put it out there, if you're running patterns inside of that writing, people won't receive your message clearly. So it's awareness and paying attention to your body and the different things that are and are not working for you is incredibly important for the crystal clarity and the message that you're designed to give.
Yeah, I love that because I believe that too. I believe each one of us has a message to share and has a message to give, whether it's just one-on-one, or I believe a lot of us should be putting that into a written word in a book. Mm-hmm. And we allow certain things to hold us back. Now, what if someone is stuck in another area? Maybe it's an area of they have this mindset that I don't have the time, or I'm just too busy.
Not enough time, not enough money.
Yeah, not enough money.
Reasons that I have people give for not finishing a goal or not accomplishing a goal.
Oh, those are definitely two biggies. Not enough time. Again, then you have to get real and investigate where are your priorities, because you have to make commitments to what it is and put the big rocks in first. So if you're Facebook marketing and talking about your business and your book is sitting unfinished, let go of Facebook for a while. Take a hiatus. Just notice where are you. Sometimes, like you mentioned, Shelley, journaling can be a huge awareness tool to start to notice where are you putting your time and investing your time, because that will give you an indication of what your priorities are right now. And it can be a hard look at it going, ooh, wow, I'm spending an awful lot of time on the couch watching TV and binge watching episodes on Netflix.
And I have to admit that I recently started using rescue time on my computer, and it was showing me very clearly I was spending way too much time on Facebook. And I recently made some radical changes so that I could get very clear in my focus, and I could, really use my time to some better tasks and things. But it was hard to swallow at first. I was like, whoa, I spend that much time on Facebook.
Well, here's the key to that awareness is to become aware and notice with grace. So you cannot judge yourself or go into resistance to it, because the truth is it is what's so. So it's important that you just notice, hey, what is it that's happening? So that even though it's tough to look at and it stings a little bit, we call that the sting of truth. When you look at it honestly, you can do something about it. But if you pretend it's not happening, it doesn't mean it's not happening.
It's still
I love that. Yeah, I love that, though, to become aware of the truth without judgment, because that is what we so tend to go towards. I'm like you, the trickster, I call it stinking thinking. It's just so easy for our minds to just go back into that stinking thinking, those negative thought patterns of, why are you doing this? You're so stupid. Why'd you just waste all that time on Facebook? And instead, accept it, be aware of the truth without judgment. So I like that.
Absolutely.
Now we're winding down on our time. It's gone by so fast. Do you have any closing, tip or closing advice or just encouragement that you want to share?
Yeah, it's basic and simple. So don't make it harder than it is. Allow it to be easy. And the two pieces that I want to leave you with are awareness and choice. When you start to investigate and notice either where you're putting your time or what's getting you stuck or any type of something that you're bumping up against and noticing you want to shift in, that awareness with grace and no judgment means that on the back end of it, you're going to start to make different decisions because you'll see what will support more of creating what you want. That's it. It's that simple. Awareness and then making the choice.
And so many times we make it so much harder than it needs to be. That is simple.
Yeah. Like I've been thinking about a week for how I'm going to actually approach this one problem. And here's what I think I've maybe figured out. And that's just, don't go there. It's one moment by one moment. You continue to make decisions that will either support you creating what you want or defaulting to what you've been doing.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That is really, really good. And if you want to learn more from Therese or have her work with you more one-on-one, I recommend that you go to booksbusinessandbeyond.com/unstuck. And she can help you just laser focus on what it is that's keeping you stuck and help you to move past that. And she's just an awesome person and just so encouraging. So I encourage you to connect with her. She has her own podcast and shares tons of stuff through her website as well. So definitely check her out. booksbusinessandbeyond.com/unstuck. Thank you so much, Therese, for being with us today.
Yes,
it was my pleasure being here. So much fun, ladies. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another episode. Join us next week as we dig into even more topics to help you grow your business as an author.
You've been listening to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Visit your host, international best-selling author Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen, the Book Ninja Eckstein, at booksbusinessandbeyond.com and grab your free gift today. Tune in next time for more ways to diversify your income beyond the book, and don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.